All right, this is a story that really has been literally flying under the radar. Matt Kennard, former Financial Times journalist turned radical, and it seems that experience is what radicalized him, having access to the upper echelons of power and finding out who they really work for. So now he's an independent journalist. He wrote a book, The Racket, about his experiences. But he has been on this subject of British spy plane flights over Gaza since after October 7th. So this is back in January when there was supposed to be a ceasefire. Madness. Just hours after the ceasefire went into effect on Sunday, Keir Starmer sent a British spy plane over Gaza to collect intelligence for Israel. The plane turned its transponder off over the Mediterranean, then spent 5 hours in the sky over Gaza, returning at 9 p.m. last night. Now, they almost got away with it, but then they had to hire incompetent Americans who forgot to turn their transponder off. This is from just last week. UK government never wanted you to see this. They spent 20 months concealing flight path of RAF spy missions over Gaza for Israel, but they recently contracted it out to a U.S. company, and new pilots soon forgot to turn off his transponder. This is evidence for a war crime trial. And here's some of that video that he released as part of his tweet.
Wow, look at that.
Yep.
Look at that route.
Yep. Just
All
going
over the Gaza
over
Strip. Yeah.
all over Gaza, presumably taking film that can be used as evidence in a war crime trial.
It seems
As
to
I said,
barely leave the border.
yep. This
Wow.
story's been there in the background. Like there was a debate about this in Parliament back in March, but it just hasn't really gotten into mainstream consciousness. I'm sure our friends in the UK have been more aware of this story, but it really hasn't been discussed over here very much until now. And here he followed up. He just put this tweet out yesterday. The RAF plane that was collecting intelligence over Gaza for Israel is now back home and flying over northern England. This plane will one day be material evidence in a war crimes case at the ICC. I hope you're right, my friend. I hope you're right. So this was from the National, which is rapidly becoming one of my favorite newspapers. UK spy plane over Gaza as Israel killed journalists. On Sunday, August 10th, the Israeli military killed prominent Al Jazeera reporter Anas al Sharif, as well as four of his colleagues and a freelancer, in a deliberate strike in Gaza City. Israel later claimed that al Sharif had been a leading member of Hamas, but the allegation was widely contested, with Al Jazeera calling it a, quote, desperate attempt to silence the voices exposing the impending seizure and occupation of Gaza. The Guardian reported that the strike, which killed al Sharif and his colleagues, happened at 11:22 p.m., quoting Palestinian reporter Wadi Abu al-Saud. Flight radar data showed that a spy plane registered under the code N6147U was active at the RAF Akrotiri base in Cyprus 2 hours earlier. There is no flight path available, suggesting the plane's transponder was then turned off. This has been standard practice during spy missions over Palestine. So by that time, they remembered to start shutting off the transponder again. Um, he actually said that after he submitted some questions about the plane, that alerted them and they started shutting off the transponder. I mean, really, far be it from me. We're a couple of we're a college dropout and a high school dropout. We don't know shit about journalism, but it seems like maybe he shouldn't have asked them for a response.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
just
just
keep
kind of
gathering.
observe. Yeah, just yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he said in a separate tweet after he asked them, they shut off the transponder again. But of course, the question this raises is, did they use intelligence passed on from the British spy plane to target the Al Jazeera reporter? Now, this has come up before. Actually, the Middle Eastern Eye confronted them about whether they had been complicit in the killing of 9 British aid workers in conjunction with this plane. In April, the Times reported that the UK government had admitted to holding information gathered from a spy plane over Gaza on the day that an Israeli airstrike killed British aid workers. However, the Ministry of Defense refused to release it. After the killing of Al Sharif, the UK's National Union of Journalists asked the Labour government to back an ICC investigation into Israel's targeting of media workers. So a lot of the pressure on them now is they have admitted that they have a lot of film of what's going on the ground in Gaza. This is probably material evidence of war crimes. So here's a little bit of what he had to say about this.
That there's enough information out there already to prosecute UK ministers from the previous Conservative administration and this one, the Labour one, for war crimes because they have been directly involved. It's not complicity. If you're collecting intelligence for a genocidal power who are committing war crimes and giving it to them over the territory they're attacking, then you are a participant. That's the legal definition. So we need to really push home this stuff. There's two things. People are now becoming aware of the degree of devastation in Gaza because the mainstream media is finally doing its job. And number two, they're finally becoming aware of the deep participation of the UK government. So in that context, that might be why the UK government is now saying, well, we don't want these spy flights on our books anymore. We're scared legally about what the consequences could be for us, and they should be scared. And it doesn't matter that they've now swapped to a private plane from the US. All the atrocities that have been committed over the past 20 months, they had a plane in the sky while it was happening. So yes, you are guilty of being a participant in genocide and war crimes. And you can't change that no matter what you do now. It was clear from Israeli government ministers' statements themselves that they were going to destroy Gaza and they didn't want anything to be standing left. And we still sent those spy flights. We still sent that intelligence to Israel, and we still kept the large part of the program, secret from the British public. Because again, it's important to mention, this is all paid for by the UK taxpayer. The UK military is paid for by the UK taxpayer. So we're paying for all this. In UK service, they're called Shadow R1s. It's quite small, but it can collect intelligence in real time and impart that intelligence to the ground in real time. It's got infrared sensors, electro-optical sensors, so you can get real granular detail of what's happening on the ground in Gaza, down to find apartment blocks, to streets, to people's movements on the ground. So that it's very, very sophisticated technology. I think that if we had the flight path for the whole of the 20 months, we'd find out that it was doing all sorts of reconnaissance work for the Israelis outside of what they tell us, which is hostage rescue. 6 hours in the sky, that's a long time. That's thousands of hours of footage they've got from over Gaza. And as I said, there's no other country doing it. So in many ways, it is the best record of the Gaza genocide that exists in the world. And it's been got by the British military, the RAF.
So this is, and I want to give them a shout out. I got this from their YouTube channel, Palestine Deep Dive. So check them out. Give them a subscribe. They've got some good stuff on there. So Matt Kennard, his book, I must confess, I haven't read it. I'm going to order it. Sounds very interesting. He's making some very interesting points here. Like, hey, why did they subcontract to the Americans? Because they're starting to get afraid they're going to get prosecuted.
Right.
Hey, let the Americans, they don't care about that. Let's just subcontract this out so we're not complicit in these war crimes. And very clearly, they've got footage that is relevant to the International Criminal Court's case against Netanyahu and others for war crimes. You've got families of some of the victims of the bombing of the British aid workers demanding that they release this footage as evidence of what happened to their loved ones. So there's a lot of pressure on them. And this is something you have to remember. Keir Starmer's coming out there at the same exact time talking about recognizing a Palestinian state at the same time that the British are continuing to fund and support spy missions, which they've now subcontracted, but they're behind it, over Gaza, which their cover story is, we're just helping with finding the hostages. These hostages are presumably in tunnels underground. How could you possibly be helping with that with these overflight missions? So the real question is, are they helping the Israelis with targeting? Did they help them to kill this journalist? They certainly turned a blind eye, at the very least, to them killing their own citizens, their own aid workers. I hope Kennard is not being too optimistic, but I do believe that he's right, that in the end, you are going to hit a tipping point, and a lot of people are going to be accountable for war crimes, and these films are going to wind up being material evidence. Now, whether they give it up or, governments are very good at losing things and having accidents and seeing things get accidentally erased, that could happen, but this is definitely evidence of war crimes.
Oh, yeah. No, there's going to be a lot of evidence that comes out. I mean, this is the thing. When you start a genocide with most of the Western world either indifferent to the issue or supporting your side of it, and then the ground shifts underneath your feet to the point where now there is more demand for a kind of scrutiny that you're not used to. Oh, yeah. There's a whole lot that's going to come to light about all kinds of countries' complicity in this. There's going to be a lot to learn about this going forward. And yeah, this is certainly one of the, I mean, look, you take an Occam's razor approach. Of course, they're helping with targeting. How could they not? It just doesn't make sense that they'd be doing anything else.
No, they're just looking for hostages held underground.
No, it's
with a
crazy.
Plane.
It's absolutely insane. That does not pass muster for a second. And, this explains a lot of why the UK government has been so slow to change position on this, because they're implicated. They're implicated. Right. And the further you go in rebuking this, the more people are going to demand scrutiny of the action itself, which of course makes you vulnerable to prosecution. I just wanted to read quickly from this because this was Al-Sharif's reports. This was in a segment that we ended up not doing, but I have the slide. Al-Sharif's reports attracted the attention of the Israeli military, which he claimed warned him to stop his work for Al Jazeera, a network that had already lost several staff members to Israeli actions in Gaza, including Ismail al-Ghul, killed last year, and Hossam Shabat, killed in March. At the end, the Israeli military sent me voice notes on my WhatsApp number. An intelligence officer told me, "You have minutes to leave the location you are in, go to the south, and stop reporting for Al Jazeera." I was reporting from a hospital live. Okay.
It's very similar to what they did in Iran.
Yes. And that to me is proof that the IDF knew he was actually not a combatant, because they don't warn combatants they're going to strike. They kill combatants. That's the whole thing. Remember at the beginning, well, we warned the civilians to evacuate because there are combatants there, right? So if he were an actual combatant, why would they be warning him to leave before they strike a place? And why would they be insisting that he stop reporting? If he were an actual militant, they would just take him out.
They would just take him out.
So they're lying. They're obviously, it was obvious to everybody that they're lying. So, if the English military, the British military, is implicated in this, then yeah, absolutely, that is explicit, hard evidence of war crimes. So good for Matt Kennard. Maybe we can get him on the show.
Actually, I'm going to add him to our solicitation list.
He's a pretty prominent Julian Assange activist. I'm almost positive he was at the Day X hearings.
Was he?
So yeah, I'm sure we could probably get in touch. That can't be too hard, I don't think. So hopefully, we could work that out.
Please clap.